Hello everyone, welcome to LUKMAAN IAS. Today we are going to have the Hindu analysis of 20th April 2021. So let us see which are the important articles in today's The Hindu newspaper. Yes, these are the important articles, mains related articles, prelims related articles. Let us try to take overview of all these articles first. Here, first article in mains section, the ordinance route is bad, re-promulgation of these ordinances is worse. So the context of the article is recently again the central government had re-promulgated one of the ordinance, and that's why it was in news. So the article is giving some important facts regarding how there is increase in the number of ordinances and re-promulgation of all these ordinances that are happening. In this analysis we are also going to understand the basics about Indian polity, how this ordinance making power is available with the president and governor. Okay, next, a huge costly mistake. So the context of this particular article on op-ed page number 7, it is talking about the Ken-Betwa link project. So interlinking of reverse project and how it is going to impact on, let's say, from the various aspects, benefits, pros and cons, all these are being discussed in this article of this particular project. So we are going to take input here GS1 paper, geography part, as well as GS3 paper, environment section. Next, sharing the burden of care. So on page number 7, op-ed page, one article, it is talking about the two different approaches for curative care for COVID-19 that is there available, and how what option should be there, what approach that the government should adopt here. The importance of community health center it is talking about in dealing with COVID-19 disease or pandemic at present. Next, prelims related articles, NASA's Mars helicopter makes first flight on another planet. So again a very important development in the space science. So Mars mission 2020 of NASA. Earlier also in the Hindu analysis we discussed about this particular mission, and now this Ingenuity helicopter of this Mars mission had made first maiden flight on Mars surface. So this is again the important development in space science. We are going to understand what is this particular Mars mission of US, NASA, and this Ingenuity helicopter. Next, vaccines for all above 18 from May 1st. States can buy directly. Now phase 3 of the vaccination program, national vaccination program, in that the government has come up with the new developments, new reforms. Here now above 18, all of those who are completed 18 years of age, they are going to be vaccinated on voluntary basis. So these developments as a follow-up to COVID-19 we are going to take input. Next, so now let us go into details of all these articles. First, the ordinance route is bad, re-promulgation worse. Okay, so this is how we have to understand first the context. Context is that there was re-promulgation of this Commission for Air Quality Management in National Capital Region and Adjoining Areas Ordinance 2020. So during, let's say, October-November months, there is peak of air pollution in Delhi and surrounding region, and at that time there is always firefighting approach adopted by the government, be it state governments or central government. Now this year the central government had come up with this idea, there will be permanent commission established for air quality management in NCR region. Okay, so this ordinance, though this particular bill was tabled in the parliament, however it was not passed, and that's why re-promulgation of this ordinance again happened. So that's why the context of the article. Now basics about ordinance powers of president and governor. So here let us try to understand what is this ordinance making power of the president. So this power is available with the president under article 123 and with governor article 213. So it is easy to remember 123, 213. So ordinance making power, these are called, we can say that legislative powers of the executive, president as well as governor. Though we can understand that they are taking decisions on the aid or advice of Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister and Chief Minister respectively. Okay, now ordinance is these ordinance making powers are given to President as well as Governor in exigencies, or we can say that in exceptional situations, emergency situations, or we can say that the Parliament or the state legislature is in recess. Recess means we can say that when the Parliament is not in session. Okay. So in such situations, such ordinance making powers are given to the executive, President as well as Governor. Okay. However, from time to time, these particular powers have been used or misused by the central government as well as state governments for promulgating ordinances and re-promulgating these ordinances even without change sometimes. Okay, let us take some, let's say, understand through this important facts about use and misuse of ordinances. For example, there is, let's say, increase in issuance of such ordinances. In 2019, there were total 15 ordinances. In 2020, total 14 such ordinances were issued. And this year in 2020, up till now, 4 such ordinances are promulgated by the President at central level. This is how we have to understand the increase in number of instances of promulgation of ordinances or taking this particular route which bypasses the legislative scrutiny. Okay, so what are the judicial cases or verdicts regarding this particular issue? For example, the earliest one, DC Vadha case 1987. So in this particular case, the Supreme Court with 5-judge constitution bench had delivered this verdict that re-promulgation of ordinances was contrary to the constitutional scheme. In this particular case, what happened is DC Vadha, who was economist, he argued that, or he in his analysis, in Bihar between 1967 to 1981 there were almost 256 ordinances were issued, and many of them were re-promulgated as it is almost for 10 years. This is how we have to understand the factual information also. So you need to mention such facts in your answers whenever you provide these arguments. So the Bihar governor from time to time within this time period issued 256 ordinances and re-promulgate many of these ordinances for quite a long time period. And therefore, in this particular DC Vadha case, Supreme Court ruled that pre-promulgation of the ordinances was contrary to constitutional. However, further such, let's say, verdict was again we can say overlooked or bypassed by the legislatures at the state level as well as we can say union level. So both governments, they have not adopted or followed this verdict. The practice of re-promulgation of ordinance continued by the central government later on. So even the UPA government, the earlier government, even the present government, for example, when the present government came in power in 2014, NDA one term, so here we can take example of land acquisition bill or ordinance. Land acquisition ordinance was, let's say, re-promulgated for 2 times. This is how you can mention the facts in support of this argument. Later on, again the Supreme Court 7-judge bench, constitution bench in 2017 declared this practice to be unconstitutional. The judgment concluded that re-promulgation of ordinances is fraud on the constitution and subversion of democratic legislative process. You can use this statement in your answer as the verdict of Supreme Court. It is fraud on the constitution, it is saying that. Though this particular judgment is there, it has declared such re-promulgation as unconstitutional, still the government is following this route or taking this route and bypassing legislative scrutiny. For example, in 2019 and 2018, what happened here is Indian Medical Council Amendment Ordinance was issued in 2018 and reissued or re-promulgated again in 2019. So such routes, this present example you can give about this Permanent Commission for Air Quality Management in NCR region, right. So this is how, with the help of these examples and facts, you need to, let's say, mention your arguments and analysis in such question. So what kind of question we are expecting in GS2 paper polity part? Directly the verdict statement can be asked to discuss here, that re-promulgation of ordinances is fraud on the constitution and subversion of democratic legislative process. That means you have to understand that these ordinance making powers were given in emergency situations. They were to be applied in emergency situations when the parliament or legislature is in recess. Okay, and therefore we have to understand that whenever the legislature is reassembling in our constitution, this particular provision is there that the maximum life of any ordinance, even at central level as well as state level, is 6 months 6 weeks. 6 months 6 weeks. You can add this in the basics here. Maximum life. Why we are saying this? Because once the legislature is assembling, within 6 months they have to consider this ordinance or this particular bill and pass this, otherwise this ordinance stand lapsed. Okay, and executive can further reissue, re-promulgate such ordinances with or without changes to the earlier ordinance. And you need to note this, that there is no bar on number of times that the ordinance can be re-promulgated. So n number of times the central government or the state government is allowed here for re-promulgation of all these ordinances. Okay, so that's why there is need of checks and balances. There is scheme of checks and balances in our constitution among these three arms of the state: legislature, executive and judiciary. And the article here, writer in the end is saying that this should be ensured, this is the responsibility of legislature and judiciary to check this particular power that the executive is exercising. Okay, so separation of powers with checks and balances, this is the system that we adopted in Indian parliamentary system that we have at present, and therefore it is the responsibility of the legislature and judiciary to ensure such checks and balances on these powers of executive. Okay, so this is how we have to understand from GS2 paper polity part. Now moving on to next article, a huge costly mistake. So the context of the article, it is talking about Ken-Betwa link project, river linking project. So here, from surplus waters of Ken rivers are to be transferred to the deficit Betwa basin in Bundelkhand region. In Bundelkhand region, we can say drought prone region at present. Some of the districts are belonging to Madhya Pradesh, some of the districts belonging to Uttar Pradesh, and that's why it is a win-win situation for these both states. Now both states have recently signed this agreement with the central government, and there will be implementation of this Ken-Betwa linking project. Now these are the basics about this particular project. What are the benefits of the project? Yes, benefits is first and foremost, huge area is going to undercome in the irrigation part. Then it will provide drinking water supply, power production, hydropower, we can say that, hydroelectricity, along with that flood control and drought management, right. So all these are the benefits of this particular project. Now this is good thing. Surely all these rivers are close rivers, or we can say that small rivers, and this is very small project we have here. Let's say intra-basin transfers of waters that are happening here. Then what are the concerns? Yes, surely some of the environmentalists have concern regarding implementation of this interlinking rivers. Environmental concerns are there. Deforestation will happen. Panna Tiger Reserve, some of the area, almost about 10 to 15% of the Panna Tiger Reserve area will be submerged. So it will impact on the wildlife also. So wildlife habitat is getting destructed, there is deforestation, ultimately it will have impact on the amount of rainfall in that region due to deforestation, and ultimately it changes the river flow in the basin of the rivers, and that's why it will impact the ecological flow of the rivers. Ultimately the riverine ecology is getting disturbed because of such interlinking of rivers. Along with that, other concerns, for example, it will need the clearance from Central Empowered Committee of the Supreme Court, which had already raised concern about the project. Along with that, Cane flows, this Cane river flows 60 to 70 feet lower than the Betwa, and therefore at least 30% of the 103 mega power generated will be used for pumping the water up. Now this is again additional cost that this particular project will have due to implementation of this project, right. So these are the concerns are there. As a way forward, the writer is saying that there should be alternatives explored, for example water conservation, water harvesting methods. Here in water conservation, watershed management, we have Pradhan Mantri Jal Sinchai Yojana. You can mention this particular scheme wherein watershed management is important component of this particular scheme. Water harvesting methods without building these dams across the rivers. So under this Cane Betwa project, there will be a dam built across this Cane river, and then through that reservoir, which is going to submerge some of the area of this Panna Tiger Reserve. So through that reservoir, through canals, the water will be diverted, and there will be a connecting canal created to Betwa basin. Okay, so this is how this project is going to be implemented, some important benefits and concerns associated with this particular specific project we are saying here. Now in general, what kind of question that was asked in last year mains examination GS1 paper? Let us have a look at this question. The interlinking of rivers can provide viable solutions to multidimensional interrelated problems of droughts, floods and interrupted navigation. Critically examine. Now the command is critically examine. Whenever the command is critically examine in mains examination, you need to understand that you focus largely on the negative aspects of the given statement. That means here, though it is saying that interlinking of rivers is beneficial in these aspects, however, there will be majority of problems because of such projects. So 60 to 70% you focus on negating the statement, and 30 to 40% you can accept the statement. That means in this particular case, you can mention that yes, it results into solving of these problems. The weightage should be 30 to 40%, and negatives, that is cons, should be 60 to 70%. So how to attempt this question? Yes, we have provided pros and cons in this analysis here about the interlinking river project. This is very important part of GS1 paper as well as GS3 paper environment section. Along with those who are having geography optional subject, paper 2 of geography optional subject, it is particular, let's say, topic in 10th chapter contemporary issues. Okay, evaluation, pros. Yes, it solves the problem of floods and droughts by achieving water balance. More irrigation, it reduces dependence on rainfall. Surely it results into more crop production. You can say that more and more area can be brought under, let's say, cultivation because of availability of irrigation. Then there can be, let's say, increased intensity of the crop cultivation. Hydropower production can be there because of building of these large dams. Employment generation because of, let's say, building of these dams, building of canals. This requires manual labor also, that's why the employment generation in that region. Along with that, inland waterways for transport, so it will ensure the navigation also. Okay, to some extent we will say that it ensures navigation. So these are the pros. Along with that, some of the cons. This part should be more as compared to this when such kind of command is asked in the question, critically examine. So what are more negatives here? It threatens the natural ecology of river and surrounding areas. So river ecology includes, we can say that the kind of flow that is required in river basin. This ensures that whatever the riverine wildlife is there, that is thriving in that particular river. Otherwise, whenever there is obstruction of flow of river by building these dams, it impacts all the wildlife that is there, or riverine ecosystem, and that's why there is extinction of many species. So how it is affecting, for example, if we are talking about the Ganges dolphin, so major impact is building dams across Ganga river, so it is impacting this particular wildlife or species. This is how it impacts the natural ecology of the river and ecosystem. Expensive projects, so very high cost involved, be it let's say initial cost, be it maintenance cost. Why maintenance cost? Because all these dams which are being built, there is a continuous siltation of these dams and there is need of dredging activities continuously. So that's why maintenance of these dams, maintenance of canals is also important. It is increasing these costs of these projects. Forest clearance, wildlife habitat destruction, habitat fragmentation, all these things are happening because of these projects. Land acquisition, displacement of people, this is also important, let's say social problem, social impact, and there will be resettlement, rehabilitation of these people. So to some extent it creates unrest in that region. We have seen this in Narmada river dams. So Narmada Andolan is there, Narmada Bachao Andolan. So this is how it results into problems. Interstate disputes, surely earlier also Madhya Pradesh and UP, they were not on common table even in this particular project, Ken Betwa link project. However, through mediation of central government, now they are, let's say, agreeing to this. But when we talk about other such projects, there is always chances of interstate disputes regarding sharing of river waters. So all these are negatives of interlinking of rivers projects, and that's why you have to understand all these issues. Along with that, at present, our Ministry of Jal Shakti or Water Resources, it has identified such 30 projects at national level. So it has two components, one Himalayan component which is having 14 such projects, and peninsular component which is having 16 projects. Okay, total 30 projects have been identified by the ministry here. So this information you can take input GS1 paper, GS3 paper, geography optional paper. Next, sharing the burden of care. So in this article, actually what we found important here is there are two approaches to deal with the curative care given during the COVID-19 pandemic times. And the first approach is reactive approach, or we can say the present approach that is adopted by the government. Reactive approach means whenever there is increasing number of COVID-19 cases in different states, or let's say the government is adopting this reactive approach, that building temporary hospitals, temporary, let's say, such arrangements, hiring the buildings, open spaces as COVID-19 treatment centers, providing only beds. Now such, let's say, arrangements are not feasible for long term investment, and therefore this is like firefighting approach. Whenever there is increasing cases, the government is making such temporary arrangements. At the same time, such arrangements are not giving total care to the patients. So it is not having, let's say, that applicability that is required. So what should be the approach here? We can say that strengthening these community health centers and making them as, let's say, important alternative. Whenever there is increasing number of COVID-19 cases, what government can do is this community health centers can be converted into COVID-19 special care centers, and whenever there are, let's say, less number of cases, this can be further converted into community health centers for other requirements of healthcare. Now these community healthcare centers are at the middle part of our three-tier structure of healthcare. At, let's say, village level, there are primary healthcare centers, PHCs we say. Second, at, let's say, taluk level or the group of villages level, CHC is there. Okay, almost around 80,000 to 1 lakh population. It caters to 80,000 to 1 lakh population. And third, we have district hospitals. We have district hospitals. So referrals from primary health care centers first go to community health centers, and then for tertiary care especially the referrals goes to district hospital. Okay, this is how the three-tier structure that we have, especially for healthcare facilities in rural areas. Okay, now these community health care centers are very important, and surely the investment in community health care center, they can become the fulcrum on which entire healthcare system can bank on, especially during crisis like COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so this is the important, let's say, major suggestion that you can give whenever the question is regarding how to deal with COVID-19 pandemic, or we can say that GS2 paper we have HRD part, health section is very important aspect of governance part in GS2 paper. So you can take input accordingly here, right? Next. NASA Mars helicopter makes first flight on another planet. Now for the first time by any country in the world, such flight is there on the surface of Mars. So this NASA successfully flew tiny helicopter Ingenuity on Mars early on 19th April, the first powered flight on another planet. Okay, so yes, there is some kind of analogy here. First powered flight on the earth was achieved by Wright brothers in 1903 in North Carolina. A piece of fabric from that plane has been tucked inside Ingenuity in honor of that feat. This is like miscellaneous information you can have. You can see the photograph that is sent by rover of this particular mission of this, let's say, the photograph is of helicopter on the surface of Mars. So this is a good development. Basics about Mars 2020 mission of NASA. So it is developed by NASA's Mars exploration program. It includes rover Perseverance and smaller robotic helicopter Ingenuity. Now there is no other role played in terms of scientific exploration by this Ingenuity. Rather its role was, or its task was, to have the flight on the surface of Mars, and that is completed now. Okay, so this aspect, it was launched on 30th July 2020 and confirmation of touchdown on Jezero crater on the Mars was received on 18th February 2021. This information is also important. Now the Perseverance will investigate into surface geological process, history. So all these aspects are there for understanding the evolution of our solar system, past life on the Mars, whether there was possibility, potential for preservation of we can say biosignatures on the surface of Mars. At the same time, in July month itself 2020, other two countries sent a probe on the Mars, and they were UAE's mission Hope and Tianwen-1 by China, right? Tianwen-1 by China. So during July 2020 month, actually Mars was near to Earth, and that's why we call it as Mars window at that time, and all the, let's say, probes of these three countries were launched in July month only at that time. So that was important development. Actually we were expecting last year itself this question in prelims examination, but yes, this year also UPSC can ask such question. So what kind of question we can expect in simple format? Which of the following country did not send space probe to Mars in 2020. So 3 countries sent space probe to Mars in 2020. UAE, name of the probe Hope. China also Tianwen, this is the name of the probe. Russia did not send, rather US Mars 2020 mission. Okay, this is how we have to understand. There can be question here, which are these 3 countries. And lastly, on page number 1 of the Hindu newspaper, important development in COVID-19 vaccination program. Phase 3 of national vaccination strategy from 1st May 2020, and now those above age of 18, they will be allowed to get vaccinated. Along with that, the vaccine manufacturer will sell half of their vaccine to the state governments and open market, and remaining half will be sold mandatorily to the central government. This system is to be adopted here, and these companies, manufacturers, will decide the price before selling. Before 1st May, the manufacturer will have to make advance declaration of price for 50% of stock supplied to the states and open market. Along with that, the private hospitals will have to procure their supplies exclusively from the 50% supplied to the states and open market, not from the central government. This is how the 50% quota of the central government will be used by the central government for free vaccination purpose. Okay. So this is again good development. Now all people can register to CoWIN platform of the government, those who are having age of 18 and above. Okay. Yes. So as COVID-19 follow up to this particular pandemic that is going on, you can take input here. Fine. Yes. So these were important articles from today's The Hindu newspaper. We hope that you are safe, healthy and staying at home. We are providing all these lectures on the online basis so that you stay at home and your preparation to this prelims examination, UPSC prelims examination 2020-21 continues. Thank you.